Sense, bringing an informed financial perspective to the Cayman community.
Good morning and welcome to Money Sense, your informed financial information for impacting the Cayman financial community. I'm your host, Neville Hicks, alongside co-host Christophe Barnett. Welcome, Christophe. Following from our industry speaker series, we've got a very familiar face in studio this morning. Jude Scott, CEO of Cayman Finance.
Morning.
Welcome, Jude.
Well, thank you.
Also joining us is Christina Bodden, founding member of 100 Women in Hedge Funds Cayman Islands, along with a partner at Maples & Calder, specializing in the structuring of hedge funds and other investment vehicles. So welcome, Christina.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
We are going to be talking today on a very, very important industry within the Cayman Islands and the Cayman Islands financial services sector, and it's really around the hedge fund industry. And it's a massive industry here in Cayman. And I think there's a lot of, misnomers or general kind of confusion with the general populace as to what exactly is a hedge fund. And how does that impact the Cayman Islands itself? So I guess with that, maybe I'll ask Christophe to kind of break out for our audience here. What exactly is a hedge fund?
Well, historically, investors have found that it's more efficient and more practical to pool their funds when making investments. And traditionally, in the more developed countries, this process has become highly regulated. And so you'll hear the term mutual funds because mutually the investors have put their monies together in investment pools. And the companies, then these investment pools are run by managers who make certain investments. Now, in the developed countries, these are highly regulated structures. And so what has developed, mainly in the offshore sector, including jurisdictions such as Cayman Islands, is similar types of pools of capital, but without all the regulations. And so that allows different investment strategies, different investment products, just more flexibility and less regulation. And so all of those non-traditional funds that do not have as many regulations are typically what we refer to as hedge funds in general. And so they'll include things like you're allowed to use leverage, so you're allowed to borrow and make investments. You're allowed to invest in more than just the typical stocks and bonds. You can invest in alternative assets like commodities and futures and other derivatives that may be seen as higher risk. And so that's sort of the blanket definition of a hedge fund.
And I guess you touched on it a bit, just I guess your traditional investments are stocks and bonds. How has the alternative or hedge fund space kind of transpired over the last 20 years? And I guess how is that, more over to you, Christina, how has that kind of impacted Cayman from an industry standpoint?
Well, when Christophe describes the product that he was just talking about, when you put it down to layman terms, it's basically investors pooling their income with the hopes to making a return if the strategy that they're betting on is a good one. The industry in Cayman that has built up almost around that product, if we're going to limit it to hedge funds, when it really should be, I think, investment funds in general,
certainly.
Is that if we're going to demystify the industry, it's when you're walking through town, it's the law firms, the accounting firms, the compliance firms, the fiduciary firms, all of these businesses that have grown up within the financial industry to support these products. And when you talk about how it impacts Cayman, all of those firms and those companies that have either migrated and come to Cayman, set up offices here, or grown organically, create jobs, create revenue. And so all of that is ancillary to the product that we're actually setting up for our clients here, which is exactly what Christophe described being a hedge fund. So what it's done is it's created an entire industry around the offering of this product to the world.
Great. Wow. And I guess, Jude, that kind of flows into a lot about what Cayman Finance itself is about, is it not?
Absolutely. We've been very, very fortunate as a jurisdiction that we are sort of the main offshore center for hedge funds, investment funds. And so we have close to 11,000 registered funds here in the Cayman Islands, in addition to, for example, private equity funds and others that are also based here in the Cayman Islands. What it means is that we have tremendous opportunities and a tremendous responsibility. And as Christoph and Christina shared, we're in the great position where we're really working with the innovators that lead investment strategies around the world. So the fact that they're in Cayman doesn't mean they have no regulation. It means we've been able to establish a very balanced and effective regulation. In addition to that, the funds we're typically working with are targeted towards institutional investors and high net worth individuals. So folks that are very sophisticated and capable of actually doing their own due diligence to evaluate the risk. So it's allowed us really as a jurisdiction, as Christina shared, to be able to provide a platform. And I'll share some other areas as well. For example, when you look at director services, when you look at technology companies.
Certainly.
Because much of this business now, when you talk about 20 years ago, you could actually employ someone out of high school in a fund administration business to pull volumes of faxes off a fax machine, staple them and distribute them every hour.
Wow.
You could pay someone out of high school who had good math skills to work, back then it was called Lotus 123, to actually reconcile trades with broker statements. Well, those jobs don't exist anywhere in the world because of technology now. So, but what that also means is there's an opportunity. So we have talented people that from a technology standpoint are helping us build platforms that interconnect with global service providers, brokers, etc. So these are all jobs and opportunities we're able to actually build and develop on here because we've been able to successfully attract this sector of the business.
Great.
I would add to that. The financial community in Cayman represents about 50% of our GDP. It is a massive industry. And along with all of the progress and the development that is organically happening in order to ensure that Cayman stays the top jurisdiction for forming hedge funds, which we are, but that means we have to take steps to remain competitive. We have to make sure that we are answering the needs of the industry that we service. And so when we develop laws that help our clients do business the way that they want to, for example, the introduction of the new LLC law, which is very much based on the Delaware counterpart, because that's what the industry was asking us for. And so that's what we have to deliver in order to be able to stay on edge and competitive. We have to continue to progress. And as we progress and as these new companies develop, that creates jobs, that creates influx within the community. It means that people are buying houses. It means that people are buying cars. And it all leads itself to strengthening Cayman's economy. And the finance industry is a huge part of that.
One of the things we like to touch on in each show is the opportunities that the finance industry provides for Caymanians and unemployment. So now that we've sort of gone through the hedge fund industry kind of overview, I want to specifically talk about the roles that people have, right? So Christina, you could talk about what a lawyer does in the hedge fund space, and then Jude, you could add about the accountants and administrators and other technology providers.
Sure. Well, probably before I talk about what a lawyer does, because you guys might all fall asleep, although I find it very, very exciting. I did an interview recently, and it really struck me when I was speaking that things have changed so much since I got into law. There was a time in Cayman where when you were coming out of, let's say if you were entering the workforce, you basically either were going to be an accountant or you were going to be a lawyer. And those were the only two things that you kind of did. And things started to bottleneck where the firms on the island were almost saturated with people who wanted to get into those industries. Times have changed. I don't think there's ever been a more exciting time to be a young person in Cayman, because you can be a lawyer, you can be an accountant, you can specialize in IT, you can be in compliance, you can be in accounting, you can be in marketing, which I think is such an exciting sector, because no matter what business or service or product you're offering, if people don't know that you're offering it, it's almost like it's almost like it doesn't exist. So there's so many different fields that you can get into. When I look around my own firm, we've got really talented IT guys. who, if they weren't there, the business probably wouldn't happen, because I know nothing about computers, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But, talented young accountants, talented young marketing people, talented compliance people. So it's almost like you are able to be a part of this industry in ways that weren't there previously because of that development and that progression that Jude was talking about. It opens up new channels, which naturally opens up new job positions, new things to study for, new things to be. So I think there's such a diverse array of opportunities out there. It's almost like you can look at the finance industry or talk to someone who's in the industry, who is a professional, and say, hey, I'm interested in computers, or I'm interested in PR. What can I do? And you'll probably get answers that will blow you away, because there's so many opportunities. In terms of what a lawyer does in terms of hedge fund, my job consists really of meeting new clients who want to set up the products that Christophe was talking about, helping them or working with onshore counsel to ensure that their documentation is what it needs to be. I review things from a Cayman perspective. We actually set up the vehicles here, so we establish them with the Registrar of Companies or the Registrar of Exempted Limited Partnerships. We review those documents, and then we maintain those companies from a legal perspective going forward. So it's really assisting our clients to get the product set up. They then go and take that product to market and get investors to invest in it.
And I guess most of these structures or funds they're selling to institutional clients who are mainly based outside of Cayman.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. And then I guess following on Christophe's comments more about employment opportunities for young Caymanians, what and Christina, I think you probably took the words out of Jude's mouth, but I do.
Sorry, Jude.
I agree, but I totally agree in the sense of it gets labeled the finance industry, but there's so many different auxiliary opportunities, whether it's marketing, whether it's IT, whether it's the list kind of goes on and on. So are you seeing that? I know there's a program that Cayman Finance has been offering for young students. Is that opening up and I guess getting through to the youth, saying, you don't just need to be an accountant, or you don't just need to be a lawyer?
Is that the summer program? The work experience student placement program? Maples actually participated in that, and we actually really enjoyed doing that. And one of the interesting things that happened was that I had 3 students that came and sat with me, and I'm talking about being a lawyer and everything. And one girl, after 1 week, I won't forget, she came in and she said, Miss Christina, I don't want to be a lawyer. I like marketing. And I was like, you know what? Smart woman. Let me walk you right over to the marketing department. That's where you should be. So that program is a really excellent one.
Absolutely. And we so much appreciate the support of firms like Maples and others that have partnered with us on it. It's our student education and work experience program. So last year, we had 50 students in the program. It was a pilot program that we just built from scratch overnight. Tremendously successful, just fantastic feedback on it. And a key element of the program is exposing our young people to all of the broad different careers that are available.
Certainly.
So it has 3 elements. It has workshops. Part of the workshops is exposing them to the career opportunities as well as soft skills. Another part of the workshop is actually being paired with a mentor. So sort of over an 8-10 week period, they have direct access to persons like Christina or the senior people within the industry to be able to talk one-on-one about careers and about what they think and how they can approach their opportunities. And then the third part is the work experience that Christina described.
Which is huge, I think, getting the youth in the firms, kind of seeing what goes on. I mean, you can sit in front of a class or you can go present and explain, but until they kind of get there and see and get kind of touch and feel as far as what I guess the expectation is, and not only that, kind of what, do they see themselves going down that?
It's like driving a car before you buy it.
Right, exactly. Test drive it.
It's exactly like that. But I think what Jude has done is huge. He's built Cayman Finance is starting to build a bridge between those young people who are sitting there going, what do I want to do? I have my whole life in front of me. What direction do I want to take? And then all of the professional community who have been there and who have come through, however they got there. People take different roads. Some take conventional roads, some take unconventional roads. And he's almost brought those two people together, which is very much what 100 Women in Hedge Funds is about, to kind of have one help the other. And that's powerful stuff, especially when you are deciding, because they're our next generation of financial professionals. When Jude and I have ridden off into the sunset, right? We've done our time. We're sitting in our rocking chairs. They will be the ones who are sitting on this show talking about the generation behind them. So it's so important for us to make sure that we bring them up, in the right way.
Certainly. We're just going to take a quick break, but please join us for the second half of the show where we're going to talk a little bit more about 100 Women in Hedge Funds.
This is
Money Sense, bringing an informed financial perspective to the Cayman community. Brought to you by the CFA Society Cayman Islands and sponsored by One Trade X.
And now, more Money Sense.
Welcome back to Money Sense. I'm your host, Neville Hicks, alongside Christophe Barnett. We have in studio here Jude Scott, CEO of Cayman Finance, and Christina Bodden from 100 Women in Hedge Funds. We've had some great discussions so far. I want to pick up from that. So I guess with that, Jude, we were talking about employment with Caymanian youth. What are the kind of next steps, and what's important to continue? You have the programs that you're running. What's necessary from whether it's government or industry to continue this momentum and continue driving these forces forward?
Absolutely. Education, access, and our willingness to continue creating those pathways. So we've been forging very strong relationships through the Ministry of Education and through the Ministry of Financial Services as well. That's been very positive. We want to do more work with them. Our ultimate goal is we believe that our schools should have a financial services curriculum embedded in the schools.
Interesting.
So that our young people fully understand our industries by the time they graduate from high school. And have a real opportunity being very successful. And when we look at the jobs and careers that are available, I like to refer to them as careers really rather than jobs. In the financial services industry, it's so important for us to focus on continuing to build on-island increases in those jobs. Because these are jobs that provide upward mobility for our people. It provides career pathing, and it provides globally transferable skills. So what they learn and what they achieve here can be applied anywhere in the world. And that's the type of young person that we want to be developing in Cayman.
Absolutely. I think, too, we've talked about how, Cayman is a leading offshore jurisdiction for hedge funds and various investment funds. An important piece of that is continuing to be the leader, and that will ultimately drive jobs, which will ultimately give Caymanians opportunities. How do we, as a jurisdiction, continue to be competitive? Obviously, human capital is easily moved. How do we continue to be competitive, and not only that, I guess, drive innovation and continue to be really the market leader?
I think that when we say how do we continue to be that, I think we've done so much over the last 20 years, if that's the time span we're talking about, to place ourselves in that position. We ensure that we keep our finger on the pulse of the industry. We respond to what our clients want. At a micro level, we even track the patterns and the trends that we see in the market to make sure that whatever Cayman is developing in terms of a product or the passage of a law or the development of a service offering in each of these firms, I'm not just talking about my own, I'm just talking about the industry, is exactly what matches the need of the client at that time. And when I say the client, I mean the industry. And we have to do that in order to stay step for step with the people that we are servicing. And I think that that's very important. I think that in terms of infrastructure, I think Cayman is probably light years above the other jurisdictions that we compete with, and we have to remain competitive. But we offer a top level service, and we do that, and people respond to that because that is the time frame in which they operate on. Our clients are very busy people who have their own concerns. They're looking for capital. They're building products. They're putting these structures together. If we can be as responsive and as as innovative in our service offering as we can be, it's a natural partnership. Because with the services that we offer within the financial community, it's very much a partnership with the clients that you service. When you have that symbiotic relationship from firm to firm to firm, we are servicing the entire industry. For us to continue to do that in the manner in which we're doing it and be open-minded to the types of legislation that we need to be putting in place, LLC is a perfect example of this. In order to be as user-friendly as we can be to our clients, we can't lose. And I think that I think certainly the industry's response, or when I say industry, I mean Cayman, response to Cayman Finance and the partnerships that we've forged with Cayman Finance have really helped us take a huge step in that direction.
Certainly. So responsiveness and being innovative.
Absolutely.
And
listening.
And listening, certainly from the private sector side, but then it kind of comes into, Jude, your territory and dealing with government, and kind of connecting those dots vis-a-vis the private side with our clients, with government regulation. And what's your view? I mean, we want to continue to be the best. How do we do that?
Absolutely, and I think I like to keep things pretty simple. We've been so fortunate over many years to be in this position that we're in, that I believe it's important that we never ever lose sight of what's gotten us to this point. And as Christina said, there are really key elements to it, and we've, based on feedback from our key clients, we've been able to distill that down into 4 key elements, which is the quality of our professional service providers that Christina talked about. And that's being able to balance local talent as well as talent that comes from overseas and works as part of that team with us. Also, the appropriate legislative and regulatory framework, strong support of government and the regulator, and our ability to innovate. These are hallmarks that are sustainable competitive advantages. Yep. Where we fall down is when we lose sight of it and we assume that it'll just come on its own. Yep. And big challenges that we've been working through, and we're very pleased. We've been working on strengthening further our relationship with government. They are now very receptive to that. We've obviously pushed and we've challenged because we believe a lot more funding needs to be spent to support the industry properly, so we can continue to maintain it and grow it. But I'll give you an example. One of the challenges they have, which is a very significant challenge, is they have very limited legal drafting resources. So we probably, as an industry, have over 100 pieces of legislation which the Ministry of Financial Services is trying to get through the pipeline. But because of limited resources, much of it is getting prioritized and just getting stuck for months or years. So when you think about what Christina shared, that our industry is based on meeting the needs of clients and developing the innovation, developing the regulatory piece of legislation and otherwise. And that's the stuff that's getting stuck. So that's where we need to focus, make sure that we're prepared to spend the resources on it, get the right people in, so we continue to sustain and grow what we have.
Absolutely. Switching gears a little bit, Christina, I want to talk a little bit about 100 Women in Hedge Funds. Just kind of what that's about. I know it's a fantastic organization. You're one of the founders. If you could just give the audience a little bit of background as to kind of your mission statement and what you guys have going on.
Well, you definitely may have heard from me before because we've been on and talked about 100 Women in Hedge Fund, but my gosh, at the time we weren't nearly as big. So 100 Women in Hedge Funds is an industry association within the alternative investment funds industry. It was founded in 2001. A group of us, and it would be myself and Joe Cunningham and Nicholas Stradling from Maples, and Odette Sampson, Nadia Hardy, and Lise Barry, who were with Deloitte, got together, and we knew of the organization in New York, and we said, you know what, we think a location in Cayman would do really well. We reached out to Amanda Pullinger, who's the global CEO, and I don't think she really took us seriously at first. She was like, yeah, you have to get at least 100 members and then come back to me. And we had that overnight. And then we went back to her and she was like, okay, wait, you guys are serious. We now have almost 500 members. Wow. We operate under 3 pillars, which are education. It's it's amazing. So much of what we do leads directly into the messages that Jude is trying to get at. So that's why we work so well together. But we operate under 3 pillars, which are education, philanthropy, and peer leverage. I chaired the philanthropic committee for about 2 years. And what we do is we have 3 main themes that we operate on, and those rotate yearly, which are women and family health, mentoring, and education. This year, our theme is mentoring. Our beneficiary is Big Brothers and Big Sisters. So all of the events that we hold that we get proceeds from this year will go directly to benefit Big Brothers and Big Sisters. But there's so much synergy at the moment with our theme being mentoring, with Jude wanting so much to launch, we launched it last year, but the summer program for student placement and work experience. There's lots of synergies between us this year. So we're going to be doing some exciting things together, I think, certainly in the summer when he has his student placement program. But 100 Women in Hedge Funds is something that I have to say really kind of opened my eyes to a lot of the potential that is out there. I've met so many incredible people, I think all of us have, that are involved. It's an incredible networking association. It's an incredible association to get yourself educated. We have education events throughout the year. We have philanthropic events that benefit our charity, and we have peer leverage events. And we talk about these things. You and I talked earlier about the event where Carla Harris spoke to us.
Yeah.
There is so much knowledge and education and experience in our industry. 100 Women in Hedge Funds has a magic in harnessing that. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like being a member, you're tapping into new way of thinking, new way of approaching things, new way to structure your products, new way to handle work-life balance, new way to handle building your own company or becoming an investment professional or starting an asset management firm. It is a powerful organization. And I think that's why we are now the fastest growing chapter globally in 100 Women in Hedge Funds. We've really made a mark.
Wow.
So how, we're unfortunately running out of a bit of time, but I really want to get across to the audience, how do they get involved, or how?
It's really simple, actually. It's 100womeninhedgefunds.org. You can't get much more simple than that. You email. It's also Phelan at 100womeninhedgefunds.com. You can reach out to any of us. I think our profile is probably pretty high now. You can certainly reach out to me. You can find me on the website at Maples and Calder and ask us questions. You become a member. You start getting the emails. You get notifications of events that we go to. And, it's amazing. When you come to our education events, we have different speakers who talk about different topics. But then we always have like a cocktail hour after. And that's where you really get to meet some of the other people in the industry. How are you approaching things? What are you seeing in side letters? What are you seeing in hedge funds? How do you deal with this and that? And it's a support community that's developed here with these different associations like CFA. You know that.
Certainly, yeah. That
bigger cities like New York and London have the benefit of all of these, and we are growing that organically in Cayman so that the industry supports itself.
Is it just limited to women in the finance industry?
It is not just women.
Yeah, that was my
it is
next
not
question.
just 100 of them. Do you know what? We suffer from a misconception, and I think that we are going to be rebranding to address that. We are not just women. I think we've struggled with that a little bit in Cayman, but certainly when you go to New York or London or Boston or some of the cities that we exist in, and you go to the events, it's men and women because they want the knowledge that is there.
Certainly.
They want to know how these powerful women in the investment community are building their firms and building their billion-dollar funds. They want to know what they're doing. We've struggled with that a little bit in Cayman, that people think it's just women, but I think it's the name. Hopefully, as we progress, we'll get more men at our events.
I'm sure. So yeah, all the men out there, go get signed up for 100 Women.
And you can't ask for a better opportunity than 100 women in a room.
It doesn't get much easier than that. With that, we're unfortunately out of time. Jude, we want to thank you again for joining us. As always, you're a fantastic guest. And Christina, it was lovely to have you on.
Thank you very much.
Got great energy in studio here. So. On behalf of the CFA Society Cayman, we thank you for listening in, and we look forward to being on 2 weeks from now. Thank you.
Money Sense is brought to you with the support of One Trade X. One Trade X, the Cayman Islands' #1 choice for online brokerage.